Well, let's go back long before Cambridge. When did you first realize that you were a mathematician at heart?
I don't know when I first realized. My mother said that she found me reciting the powers of 2 at the age of 4. Now, she was a fond mother, and I don't know exactly what was meant by that. It might have been 1, 2, 4, 8, or maybe I got up to 1024, 2048, and so on. But anyway, that's a sign of something. When I went to, at that time we changed school in England at the age of 11, or 11 plus it was always called. And when I went there, I had an interview with the headmaster.
At the high school?
At the high school, yes.
Which high school was it?
It was the Holt High School in Liverpool. And the headmaster sort of said, what would I like to do with my life? And I said, I want to go to Cambridge and read mathematics. I heard that phrase, read mathematics. It seemed a grown-up phrase, so I sort of used it.
And what did he said? That's impossible? Or?
Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, what happened, though, is I wasn't particularly mathematical in the first few years at that school. I was sort of roughly good at everything, but particularly the scientific things. And I remember in my first year there, I came first, second, or third in every subject, at the end of that. And then several things happened. I became more restricted to mathematics as I get older. Also, puberty happened, and I sort of got less interested in school at the same time. And then I remember one of the teachers having a talk with me and saying, you're wasting your life. This was at the age of 15 or 16 or something. And you really should knuckle down and so on. And I took it to heart and eventually got into Cambridge, which was what I had told the headmaster I wanted to do at the age of 11. At the age of 11, of course, I couldn't see further than the age of 18 or whatever it was. But it sort of seems as though I was always a mathematician in some sense.
And I think that some of the things you started investigating in high school have turned into long-term projects and become quite important, haven't they?
Yeah, the one I particularly think of is my interest in knots. I read some popular book on mathematics, and it had a picture of a knot in it. And it said the simplest algebraic description of this knot is, and then there was some complicated formula, which I didn't understand. But it started me off being interested in knots. And I kept up that interest when I was an undergraduate at Cambridge. And I remember I used to go down to the Central Reference Library in Liverpool, and I picked up some 19th century papers on knots and got very interested, and then discovered a whole lot of things about them. When I got to Cambridge, I started off by making a sort of dictionary of knots. Then when I got to Cambridge, I realized that just enumerating knots was not a terribly mathematical thing to do, and it would be more grown up to work out invariants. And so I worked out some invariants of knots, I tabulated them, and then discovered some properties of them and so on.
30 years ago, you said this strange thing. You said the real invariant of a knot is a knot itself and there's nothing else. But sometime after that, your invariants became useful and
yes,
pushed a long way.
Well, it was not really my invariance, but my sort of method of computing invariance. I found these relations between, if you take a knot and just change one crossing of it, you just pass the string through it and so on, there are relations between the invariants before and after, for some of the invariants anyway. And I started thinking of knots like that.
So you gradually simplify the knot and watch what happens to the invariant.
And then I found, I think this was when I was still at high school in Liverpool, but certainly by the time I became an undergraduate in Cambridge, I found this wonderful relationship between fractions and tangles. Tangle is a word I use for a piece of knottedness that has some ends coming out. And some tangles are fractions. So, 2/3 for me names a particular arrangement of string. And this was taking, how can I say it? Knot theory is a branch of topology and so on. And then here's this little piece of it that's the same as arithmetic, elementary arithmetic. That's really what I love, when you have some unseen connection.
And if you know the complicated fraction for the knot or for the tangle, you have instructions to untangle it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I think you're referring to
one of your famous lectures.
Yeah, on one of these lectures, yes. I have people square dancing, holding ropes, and they get the ropes into a terrible tangle. And then I sort of instruct them. Well, I cover up the tangle with a plastic bag usually, so nobody can see it anymore. And then I instruct them to untie it. The audience has to untie it by telling the dancers what to do. And, if they get it right, which occasionally they don't.
But at Princeton, it's usually okay.
This terribly tangled thing messes the plastic bag up. I go up there and pull it away, bite the plastic bag, and whoosh, the tangle. Well, when it works, the tangle comes undone.